Should I say?
And we're live.
Hello there. So it's been a minute since we've had a moment together speaking on different subjects dealing with communication. This on trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma and the body and how your body reacts with trauma and how it's connected. So the body is it's very important. Trauma, and depending on when the trauma happens, it's always stored in the body. I mean, the body remembers all your traumas, and you can trust that so it doesn't forget. You may think that you've forgotten about something that's traumatic to you, but it's only temporary. It's upstairs. Your body remembers. So the trauma, when it happens, is actually really important. If it happens when you're very, very young, or if you're a little older, it affects you differently. So can you remember something traumatic happening to you when you were under 10?
I can remember something traumatic happening to me under 5.
So most people have memories at different levels. They have remember some things below 5 consciously, and most people cannot. Most people cannot remember a lot under 3 or 4 years old. But if you have trauma that happens below 2 or 3, it's very different than if you have trauma, say, around 10 or 15, as you can expect. When we come into this world, we are judging our surroundings with our senses, and we are trying to determine whether it is safe or unsafe, basically. When you're in your mother's arms and you're pretty safe, and she lays you down and you're separated from your mother. When you cry, it's your way of communicating with her, and what happens after that cry, if you're met with kindness and love and attention, then your view of the world is safe. And it is unfortunately not every child's scenario to have safe environments. And depending on when traumatic events occur, if it's under 2, unfortunately, it's much worse. It has a way of affecting you and affecting your whole personality. It can make you fearful subconsciously throughout your life. So when you have caretakers that are meeting you after you cry with negative reactions, say shaking or yelling, then you learn to repress that cry. You learn that crying brings unfortunate traumatic events, and you learn to repress that cry. Even a baby can learn to not cry, because that crying is met with physical abuse sometimes, unfortunately. So when those traumatic things happen under 2, it can really affect you in a much more negative way. And studies have shown after 10 traumatic events happens a little bit later in your preteen years and just before puberty, say, you have more likely you are going to be, if you had a safe environment before that and you have a traumatic event that happens, say 10 years old, as I did.
And I too.
Yeah, a lot of children and have been traumatized around that age. You kind of you have if you've had a safe environment before then it's not going to cause stress that is something that you it's much harder to deal with if you have it earlier. The earlier in life it is, the more likely that it's going to create a personality disorder of some sort, whether it be uh, a post-traumatic stress type situation, that you just have a fear of what's going to happen in your life, and you have a fearful, insecure person, and they deal with events in that insecure way. They have a negative slant on the world, that their needs weren't met when they were young, so they naturally think that the world is not such a safe place deep down. It goes subconscious. It goes into the body, into the mind, deep into the mind, and you have it comes out later in life when you have that issues that trigger those traumas. So there's a lot of people had traumatic events at a young age, and lots of studies done on them and how they dealt with like with traumas later in their life. So if you have stress now and you didn't have a lot of trauma, then you're most likely going to be able to get past that a little quicker. If you're triggered by something and you're not quite sure it, it may be deeper in your subconscious in your younger years. So when you hit,
Can you hear us now? Okay.
I think I accidentally hit something.
Can you hear me? Can you hear us? Okay. Sounds back on. I think you accidentally hit mute, but it's all right.
So does anybody have any questions about anything we can try and answer without at this point?
Yeah, like about what we've been talking about.
Does anybody have a traumatic event that they'd like to talk about, or they'd like to something they'd like to know about? That I don't have a PhD. I've really, as a spa owner, I counsel a lot of people, and I've done a lot of reading on psychology and traumatic events and trauma itself. So there's a book that I really love called The Body Keeps the Score. That is a continued education, a book on that, because it gives you a lot of information in that. The body keeps the score. You might want to look that one up.
Someone shared that them and me both shared a traumatic event.
So,
but that's all they can say.
We all have things that we can share with others. There have been more. You're more likely to have trauma in your life that you can remember than not, unfortunately. So the way we deal with that is the most important thing. And you can't escape, but you can become more resilient. And the way we become more resilient, resiliency just means that if there's no way to avoid traumatic events or things that have happened, but we can know that it doesn't really, we are not just the sum total of what's happened to us. We become stronger. It does not mean that we want to be thankful for the trauma. It just means that becoming more resilient is something we have to practice. And that is, there are many ways that you can deal with that. And one of them is small doses of trauma. And that small, say, I'm sure some of you have heard about cold therapy and hot saunas. Cold stresses the body slightly. So you can become more resilient by exposing yourself to small amounts of trauma, and your body realizes that you're okay. So you can take a cold shower. This releases dopamine, and it is
Actually,
a
the
good
thing I want to start trying to do is take a cold shower every morning that I can. But is it okay to do it in the winter when it's really cold?
Cold therapy and small amounts of cold therapy, as in cold showers, there's no harm done. You really, it's not comfortable, but the beautiful thing about uh, cold showers, even though it's not comfortable, the very uncomfortable situation you're putting yourself in is teaching you how to deal with larger amounts of trauma. So if you expose yourself to a cold shower or cold immersion in a pool, now that it's getting a little warmer or a little colder outside, you can find cold pools. Your pools are pretty cold now, but you can submerge yourself, and there's a lot of people doing
Unless you're
this.
in a warm part of the world right now, because there are
where
places.
and it's
Are
not
there?
fall, right? There's a lot of it's getting cooler out though, and you can find ways to get it. If you can't, then you can try the sauna first for hot therapy or immersion in a cold tub. But what this does to the body, it doesn't hurt it. It puts it into a situation that is just temporarily uncomfortable. And what this does is it creates a good reaction in your body, in that it boosts your dopamine level. And dopamine, and a lot of people that are short on that, or they're anxious and they have anxiety or they're depressed, are really short on dopamine. It's a hormone that really helps you to regulate, and your body actually creates dopamine to help you feel good. So, in reaction to the small amounts of trauma, your body reacts with a little bit boost in dopamine. For instance, when you're shopping online, or you're eating, or you're kind of scrolling, you're actually searching for a dopamine boost, because another book that comes to mind, Dopamine Nation, which isn't, I don't have the author at hand, but it actually speaks on the fact that most of us are searching for dopamine boosts throughout the day to help us feel good. So if you're doing this, you're shopping online late at night, or you're eating, and you really aren't eating because you're hungry. You're looking for a dopamine boost. So the ways that we can do this that are good for us are doing things that are joyful, and things that we enjoy, that don't have any kind of negative backlash, so to speak.
I
So
do
if
that all the time.
there are a lot of things that cause a boost in dopamine that also have side effects, and I'm sure we can all think of a few that are legal and illegal that give you that dopamine boost. But here's the thing: dopamine boost from um, shopping or just checking out, so to speak, is has its own side effect. It's really taking you out of the moment. So it's kind of escapism. So the dopamine boost that is good for you, that actually raises it, that has no repercussions, is things that bring you joy. Uh, Exercise brings dopamine. It's really good for you, as well as the healthier habits and hobbies that we have that we love. Things that we find that another that really bring us happiness, bring us dopamine. That's the feeling of happiness. So that uh, in the morning, if you go outside and you have 20 minutes of morning sunshine, and without sunscreen or sunglasses, you're going to increase your dopamine, and you're also going to really set your circadian rhythm, which is uh, a natural rhythm to get up with the sunshine and with the sun rises, and to really get ready to retire as the sun goes down. So we've really have a natural rhythm for thousands and thousands of years with that in mind, and it upsets your mood and your dopamine and different other types of hormones by getting too much light. Light can be a very positive thing until you have it at the wrong time of day. So you don't have enough light in the morning, and you have too much at night. It does not help your circadian rhythm. We all have rhythms that we want to follow to feel our best. So circadian is one of them, and even blind people know through a little gland in your brain called the pineal gland that a blind person knows whether it's day or whether it's night. And it's a really important gland because it has a lot to do with our circadian rhythm, and it also has a lot to do with our melatonin and that hormones that help us to wake up in the morning and help us to fall asleep at night. So we really want to reduce our light, and that helps the dopamine as well as the production of melatonin, which is a natural hormone. It is not something we all need to take. We make it. In fact, we make all kinds of pharmacology and good feeling hormones and things that will regulate us within our bodies. So we really don't want to just pick up melatonin for a couple of reasons, because to help us sleep. And sleep, I'm speaking on it because it's really important to stress levels. And when we are low on sleep, then we're not going to react to stress and stressors
in a positive way.
Right. It's not.
You can't handle it
as well. You really, everybody knows you need sleep, but we really don't realize what we do that's counterproductive. We keep our lights on too long, too late. The LED, the blue lights, there's really no such thing as a warm light. They add green. So it's really not, it's still blue. So you really want to reduce that blue light at night in your phone use. We all have a setting that turns down the blue light on our phones, but not having it at all is really better. Not having it in the room, and not having little lights around that have these little signals in your room with all of the electronic equipment. There comes this little light on it, and in the dark, you really need darkness to get your best sleep. So you want to limit how many of those little tiny lights that you have in your room, and they're always around. And so the darker your room, the better. The cooler, the better. And you want to have it, your body temperature to really sleep better your room needs to be cooler to fall asleep and warmer to wake up. So your body temperature changes. But the stress that we encounter stress is not really just a 4-letter word, so to speak. Stress, we need it. We need a certain amount, but we need it balanced. We need to have small amounts so we can deal with it and learn how to deal with it. When we have traumatic events, what they do is they really engage our parasympathetic nervous system. We have a sympathetic nervous system, and we have parasympathetic. Well, they work together. Sympathetic is not the. It's really more of the action. It seems like it would be opposite. The sympathetic nervous system is actually the one that we are engaging when we have to move, and that when we're stressed, when we have stressors, then we get ready to move. Our bodies undergo changes when we're under a stressful event. So your body temperature and your limbs, the blood goes to the center of your body, so your limbs get cold and your hands get cold, your feet gets cold, because your body is readying you to be able to run. So when you have stressors, you are preparing yourself to have an adrenaline surge. Your body will get ready to take action. So the reason we want to limit our stress and the perceived stress is just as important as the actual stress. So if you feel it to be very, very stressful, it's just as important as if somebody had said, well, that's not that bad. Why are you that stressed? What's perceived stress? Your stress is your stress. It's not somebody else's. So you're conditioned to have different types of stressors. So trauma has a lot to do with that because your trauma will have different triggers as you get older. You will be stressed under certain conditions that might have happened when you were younger, and those things are different for everyone. So we all have different triggers for our stressors. They can be uh, triggered by someone that actually looked like the perpetrator of the trauma. They can sound like them. They can smell like them. You can have different triggers because we, as children, oftentimes are using our senses, of course, to engage with the world. And mom smells a certain way and she's safe. And boyfriend smells a different way and he looks a different way and maybe he wasn't so safe. So everybody has memories of not so safe feelings. You know, because are born with many different pathways in your body to quickly understand what is a good situation and safe and what is a stressful situation or not so safe and be ready to take action. Your body engages with adrenaline and norepinephrine. It's the same thing. And different hormones that will help your muscles to engage and move quickly. And some people call it the fight or flight type of reaction. And it's it's the easy way to refer to it. And so the reason that we need to learn how to deal with small amounts of stress, because stress is a necessary thing to be able to handle it. And small amounts will teach your body how to deal with it. Even if you've been stressed unduly and you've had a lot of trauma, you can learn how to calm your body by deep breathing and by engaging in small amounts of stress, cold exposure and high heat, and even breathing techniques. There's a breathing technique that I love to teach my clients as an esthetician and a salon owner. I wear a lot of hats, and oftentimes, I, because your skin and your immune system and your body are all connected. In fact, everything's connected. I treat the skin and the person together. So it's a holistic type of, of therapy. So I ask my clients, and I go through a thorough consultation of what their needs are and what they're missing, whether they're sleeping well or whether they are drinking enough water. A lot of times you'll have times through the day that in the afternoon you have a little bit of a slump and you're a little tired, and oftentimes it's really because you need to drink more water and you're dehydrated, and it brings on afternoon slump. So the holistic way that I approach my clients and their needs has a lot to do with how I'm explaining trauma and what it does to the body and how it engages and how you can become more resilient. Yes.
Someone has a question for
What's
you.
that?
I'm going to tell them to go ahead. But they do have a question for you.
While they're thinking of the question or
Okay.
typing, I'll continue my train of thought, and that one of the ways that you can mitigate or reduce trauma or stress and teach your body that to calm the parasympathetic nervous system is to deep breathe. When you are breathing deeply, and there's a particularly useful breathing technique that will reduce your anxiety pretty quickly. And it's really, really easy to learn. And I can teach you here today. Is it's pretty simple, but most people, when they go throughout their day, don't realize how important it is to breathe deeply as much as you can, especially when you feel that sense of anxiety creeping in, or you're feeling stressed, and you need that a quick answer to how can I become more calm right now, and that is one of the ways that I can suggest is to do what is called, and I didn't coin this phrase. Uh, it's the physiological sigh, and it is engaging breath in a deep way, just breathing deeply, and then a second breath right on top of it. So you're breathing deeply, and then a little bit more right on top immediately after. So, emphasis on the exhale is relaxing, and so you're inhaling, but you're exhaling slowly. So the emphasis is on your exhale. So you're inhaling deeply, a little bit more right after that, and then exhaling. And the noise helps you because that sound of really does help. So you want to inhale. Up to 10 times, because this is proven to reduce your anxiety, because you are, the only time you really breathe deeply is when you are really relaxed. Your body and your vagus nerve that is connected to your nervous system
Susan,
in your gut says, okay, she's relaxed. She's breathing slowly. Go ahead.
the question, the first question was actually unrelated to the subject. But someone said, "Hey Susan, do you know what amethyst is?"
Amethyst, the crystal?
The crystal.
Oh, of course. Mhm. Amethyst is one of my favorite crystals. And it is comes in different colors. I really love the study of crystals. I can't say that I'm an expert, but I love labradorite and amethyst and all of them because they all have different frequencies, and as everything does, and they are very powerful. People. Mhm.
The same person says, "Does it help you relax and focus on positive energy?"
I think that amethyst, not knowing as much as I can't say that I'm an expert on the properties of crystals, but I know that when you hold something that you really love, whether it be a crystal that, whether you know a lot about that crystal and the properties that it embodies and that it is proposed to help you with, what I think is that if you feel that you love that crystal or you love something about it or it makes you feel good, then it does. And that's the most important things. How does it make you feel? A lot of crystals you can study and find what somebody else is going to tell you, what the power and what the frequency and what that stone is proposed to do. And I think, but most importantly, they you can research, and I can't say that I'm an expert on crystals, but I think that there's a lot of power, and there's a lot of
Someone
really-
asked what trauma means.
trauma is an event or an occurrence in your life that affected you deeply in a negative way. And it does.
Oftentimes caused from other things and or people.
It can be an event that caused you trauma. It can be a person. It can be, usually it has negative memories of another person that caused you some type of psychological or physical harm. So trauma is connected to typically people that have caused you harm in a physical or mental way. There, there are no worse traumas. There is, there's only trauma. If it affected you in a negative way, and it was an event that affected you strongly, then think about that. That is not something that is ever something that's ever going to be easy to forget. So trauma is something that affected you in a negative way, causing you harm. And there are very few people that can go through this life and not experience that. So it's important for all of us to learn and to teach others how we can deal with trauma. And there are a lot of ways. Immediate and long-term methods to deal with trauma.
And someone asked, have you ever experienced trauma? If you're okay with me asking.
There are very few people, as I was saying, and I'm included. There are very few people in this world that get through it without it. I mean, and I've experienced some trauma. Indeed, I have. And I think that most people have. And I really feel that part of our jobs on this earth are to help others through and teach people resilience to this trauma. And yes, I've had trauma, and I think that life is going to bring you that. And some people get more, and some people experience more than others, and they need more guidance and help through it. So there is no shame in admitting that you've had trauma. And I have no shame in saying that, yes, I'm not saying that I have no shame. We all have that along with it, because oftentimes it goes hand in hand. Trauma, unfortunately, causes the one that has been victimized to have shame, unfortunately, because it's something that you don't want to talk about. Most people do not want to talk about trauma. And that's where it gets hidden, and it creates a pocket of really buried thoughts and feelings. And
it's not always easy to get over them either.
It's not. And that's where we need help with each other, to have friends and have family, a support system. There's a number of ways you can deal with trauma, and that's always better if you can tell someone about it. And usually it's someone that you feel close to, that you won't feel judged, because you don't want to lay your trauma in the hands of somebody that isn't ready to A, accept it, and B, hasn't earned your trust. Do not share your traumatic events and your things that bother you
someone
deeply.
You just met that you don't know, or you don't know fully.
Like Atriel says, it's really important we choose our confidants and the people that we share these experiences with carefully, because they need to have earned our trust. They really do. They need to earn our trust because you want to have acceptance and you want to have a sounding board and a person that is going to be receptive to you and care about you. And that's not somebody you just met. So a lot of people tend to uh, really want to,
Air it out because it's something that bothers you.
and that's important that we do that. It's important.
But you have to choose the right person, someone that you trust, and someone that you sometimes, you come to find out that somebody understands and really relates to it. And it's a really nice feeling when you can share something that may not be easy to share um, with someone that's very easy to talk to.
It's true, and it's really important. And what you're describing is a very valuable subject. It's called vulnerability. When you create a space with someone that you become vulnerable, that is brave because it's scary. And we need those people in our lives, and we need to choose them wisely, and choose them. And if you don't have that someone, then to reach out to a therapist and somebody that's licensed in that field. There are many ways to find out those people, and uh, I really encourage people to find a friend or someone that is in the professional field that can guide you, because just opening up and letting somebody know what has happened to you, it's not what's wrong with you. And don't ever ask someone in that way, because it brings on the way words that we choose bring on judgment. So
Yeah.
it's not really what is wrong with you, but what happened. What happened? We all have things that we need and that have happened to us that aren't so pleasant, that we need to share. And therapists are good for that, but so are friends. And being vulnerable is really important. It's nothing you need to have shame for. And shame is something that is different than embarrassment or guilt, or shame is never good. It's
No.
negative. But shame, the difference with shame and guilt are that guilt or embarrassment, you can possibly use them as tools to, you can get over them if it's slightly embarrassing or you feel a little guilty about it because you did something that you don't feel so good about. But shame is more saying that you are bad, not the thing you did was bad. But shame is saying that I am bad. And shame is not easy, and it is not, it's never good. And it is something that can be, have different triggers and have different causes for different people. And what are some of your shame triggers? Let me know, and I'll tell you some of mine.
So, speaking of what you were just asking, someone asked, how do you know um, who to the type of friend that you can open up to? How do you know, even if it's somebody you really trust, how do you know whether they will accept everything that you've been through and not judge any part of it?
It's hard to say. The length of time that you've known the person, you'll find that. You'll find yourself knowing that, because it's hard to know someone for a short amount of time and know that. But if you have someone that you've known for a while, you can usually determine whether they are trustworthy or not. Typically, within about a short amount of time, there's no hard rule for this. But if you feel you talked with them enough about things that aren't shameful and that aren't things that really bother you, get to know the person first, and that will come to you. You'll know deep down, because we all have that ability to read people and to know intuitively whether they are on our side or whether they are
Not.
if they're authentic and they're caring people, if they're empathetic, if they lean in when they talk to you, if they're always looking at their watch or they're gazing somewhere else or they're changing the subject. That's not the right person. If they are engaging with you and they're talking with you about things, test them on subjects that aren't so hard to talk about first. Test them on a small problem and talk to them about an issue that you don't have so much at risk. The small problem first and see how they react, because you can gauge whether they'll be authentic and caring and empathetic. And then if they're not, then you haven't risked a lot of um, vulnerable and possibly hurtful things with them, because I've made the mistake of sharing with the wrong people
Me
and
too.
trusting too easily.
Me too.
And I'm prone to that,
Me
as a
too.
lot of people are. You're just kind of um, you want to believe the best in people. You
A
want to
lot of the
say
times.
you want to think that you can really open up to many people,
Yeah.
and you want to like them. You want them to like you, but make no mistake.
It's not always going to happen.
Oversharing something that they have not earned the right to be shared with, will it'll really be more likely to hurt you if you overshare too quickly. Don't share your whole life story with someone you just met. Give it some time. On a first date or someone that you really like. Um, don't unload every bag upstairs, because they're not ready for that most of the time. Choose somebody you've already known, or choose somebody that doesn't know you, that happens to be in that field. There's nothing wrong with seeking counsel with your counselor, or asking who I need to talk with someone that I can be totally honest with. We all need that person that you can be totally honest with, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
I think that it's really important. So if you don't have someone that is a friend that's your age, you might go to your counselor at school or an older friend and just say, I really am having a problem with something. And it may be a traumatic event that you're just remembering. Sometimes you're triggered by things now and you don't know why you're so upset. Suddenly you're just so upset. Well, there is either a shame trigger or there's a trauma trigger there. If you are suddenly very upset over something that somebody did or said, or you just look at somebody sometimes and you think, they remind me of somebody that really hurt me, that can be a trigger. And we all have different triggers. Mine is not finishing college. I have a shame trigger there, because even though I'm a lifelong learner of many different subjects, I think that I find that I need the most help mentally with that trigger of when people judge you because you didn't finish college or you
Didn't
didn't,
finish school,
um, you know,
part
that
of your school, or didn't finish high school, or
right. It's like there's something that triggers me in that, and but
it's understandably triggering.
well, I really think that there are so many ways that we can learn and that we can become better at whatever subject that we like to learn. And I feel that as a lifelong reader and a lover of studying of philosophy and psychology and many different subjects, that I don't think that you need a degree
No,
or a PhD to be able to be very,
successful.
not only successful, but learned on a subject. So pop psychology, you know, don't ever you don't ever want to say, well, he's a narcissist, or she's a this, or she's that, or he's this, or he's this, so OCD, or he's, because that's where judgment is really dangerous, because there's so many words. Narcissist is really something that's been bandied about unfairly, and will label people, and labeling in general is usually inaccurate, and if not done by uh,
It
a
has to be.
licensed psychologist or
Yeah.
psychiatrist, then you don't have the tools to even come close to diagnosing what somebody might. You might guess, and you might think, oh, he's so bipolar, or because he's mood swings. But it's really unfortunate and unfair that we have so many people that don't have licenses and don't um, have the knowledge to label someone that are doing that. So be aware that we all need to really focus on ourselves and focus on how we can improve ourselves without labeling others and without judging others. Because the judgment, even though it comes honestly, and we're kind of hardwired to judgment because we came from prehistoric beings that they used judgment to decide whether environments and people that were not like them were safe or dangerous. So we're definitely made and hardwired to judge.
Someone said one of my main triggers is when people um, ignore me, and I'm talking to somebody and they quickly find uh, a way to not respond to me, even though I know they can hear me. That really triggers me.
Well, if I had to comment, what it brings to mind is that when you are triggered by not being heard and ignored, somewhere in your past, uh, you didn't feel heard, and maybe in your family, there hasn't been someone important to you that has allowed you to be heard, and that is triggering for a lot of people, myself included.
Myself included.
You want to be heard. You want to be heard, and you want to have someone
Respect
value
your your being.
And not everybody is capable of doing that, and not everybody is going to be kind and give you that space to be able to express yourselves. So when somebody does that and they ignore you, or they change the subject, or they totally disregard what you just said, realize that is a reflection on the speaker or the ignorer. Really, it's about they are definitely reflecting what they are not. And it isn't about you. If somebody is ignoring you and you're speaking, it might trigger you, but the way you want to deal with that is to not take it personally, because their reaction is about them and what they're trying to do. And if it's making you feel small to make themselves feel bigger, that's a ploy. That is a ploy that people use to dismiss you so that they can feel more important. It doesn't mean it's true. It is a reflection on the fact that they are insecure. So it leads directly back to the person that is ignoring you. It is not about you. That is an insecure person.
Somebody said that they are new and they had a question about whether it is healthy to be completely isolated in their home. Couldn't read that for a second.
This question it really speaks of someone that being isolated is never good. And it says that if you're asking this question, that you are isolated in your home and you feel that way, and that is never healthy. And you want to take steps to find someone to listen to you. Because if you are isolated in your home and you feel that way, I would say you want to journal and find out when it started and who is isolating you and who is in control of this. Because if you're a young person and you live in your home that is controlled by your parents, most likely, and you feel isolated, I would say that you need someone to talk to that will give you advice, because isolation is never good. If you don't feel you have someone to talk to, then you have to seek someone that will. If it's not your parents and there's a problem, I'd like to know whether have you tried to go to your parents and express that is the way you feel, because not talking about something like that will make you feel more isolated. The more you stay isolated, the more you're likely to feel that you're trapped and that there are no choices. So to take yourself and realize there are, first of all, how old are you? That would be a question of mine.
Okay.
Who can you talk to? Because
the person said that they are 12 and that they've talked to their parents, but every time that their parents are home and they try to talk to them, they don't want to talk to this person.
So you're feeling really isolated because you're not heard. And what I'm hearing is that you don't have enough time with those that love you and that want to listen to you. And this is really, really hard.
Person says they feel very lonely all the time, and the only time that their parents come in is to slip a note on the door for dinner. Doesn't sound very good.
So their style of communication isn't speaking to you. And they're writing notes and putting it under your door. And that is making you feel more isolated, I'm sure, because you want to speak, you want to be spoken to, and you want to be included. I would definitely try and find maybe at your school a counselor that can get you a number of someone that you can talk to that about the situation, because everybody needs someone to talk to. Everybody needs to feel that they have an outlet, that they can be heard. So you have to take.
The person said that they go to a private school with 0 counselors, and the only time they leave the house is to go to their grandparents' house, but they don't talk to this person either.
So your grandparents are, um, you have two or just one, and you tried, when you go to your grandparents, have you tried expressing that you feel isolated? Because you have to express this, and you
The
have to.
person said yes.
And what did they say? Because you must have felt really lonely to be able to say this. First of all, thank you for being vulnerable and opening it up, because when you become aware, when your awareness is the first step to making changes. The first step. So you're aware that this is going on. So your intention is to get more people into your life that care. So you want to reach out to, over and over, if you have to. You can reach out to your grandparents, and every time you see them, and let them know this is how you're feeling. So it's really important that you find that, whether it be your teacher or a friend at school, that you can talk to, because isolation can be alleviated if you are heard. And sometimes we don't feel that we're very important when we're not heard. And when we feel isolated, we feel that it's not a priority to have conversations that are involve us, and that can be very, very painful. So when you go to your library in your private school or your teacher, try and pull them aside and let them know that you are in need of help with the problem, and that you want to talk to. If you don't have counselors, your teacher can advise you on who that would be a good person that you can talk to, because mental health starts with expressing yourself. If you don't feel that you can express yourself and you're not heard, then you will take that inside your body, and it affects you in a negative way. So please continue to reach out to your teacher, to your mother, to your father, to your grandparents. And also, I would like you to start a diary, a journal, that every day you write down what you're feeling, whatever emotion it is, because inside you is a person that cares. You know how you're feeling. And I know it can feel at 12. I know that it can feel really scary, not being heard and not feeling very important, but you are. Realize inside yourself, you're your own champion, because inside you is a drive to look for a better situation, or you wouldn't be speaking up right now. So continue doing that. And every day, write a few sentences down, and you start journaling. And that will help you so that you have a better relationship with how you're feeling, so that when you get to a counselor or a therapist or somebody, your teacher, if your teacher won't do it, then you go to another teacher and you say, I'm having some mental problems, some issues that I need to work through. And And it's not shameful. It will get their attention, because if you go enough times to enough people and let them know that you're reaching and you're seeking help, what you think about and what you take action on expands and it grows. So you continue thinking about it. Continue thinking about how you can find that person that will help you. And use that breath that we're talking about. Inhale deeply. Another right behind it. And know that inside your 12-year-old body is a wise person. You came without the ability to choose your environment, but inside your person, inside your mind, you can definitely, when you continue to keep seeking for what you're searching for, in the library, there are going to be books as well. Continue looking for ways that you can feel there are people out there that will hear you, and there are, but you have to keep seeking, whether it at the risk of repeating yourself. Continue to tell your mom or your father or your grandmother every time you see them, I want to talk more with you. I love talking more. And sometimes if we just come and we want to share something, and you just engaging with them in a positive way sometimes will help. And knowing that if you just keep on trying with your grandmother, your father, your mother, your teacher, and it will grow. This desire to be heard may grow into be a desire to write or a desire to be heard. Begin writing about the way you feel. And it doesn't have to be a fancy book, just paper. And start writing how you feel, because it's important. And if nobody else is listening, you can. You can listen to yourself and you can write it down and you can reread later on how you felt. And you can find ways, try and find ways every day that you are thankful for something. Reach out and to someone every day and think every day that there's going to be something interesting and something that is going to catch your attention. And because I sense a little bit of negativity, which is understandable, but the way we get out of that is to say thank you. Thank you for what I do have. Thank you for this paper. Thank you for this bed. I wake up in the morning and I say thank you for, and just a litany, just a list. And you start listing them. And suddenly you realize that I've got a lot of things to be thankful for. And no matter if this is a negative thing, then you're surrounded by things, and you just have to realize it, that you can be thankful for that will lift your spirits, because you're a beautiful person and you're valuable and you have a lot to say, obviously. So write them down and continue trying. And traumatic events don't have to be things that are horrific or extreme. They can be traumatic because, like this young person, is being traumatized because they don't feel they have a voice and they're not being heard and they're not being asked. How do you feel? What is going on with you? I want to know you better. And everybody needs that. And if you can't find that, then you can definitely continue trying. And until you do, and you will, you'll find a friend, or you'll find that your mother's or your father or your grandmother or somebody that is in your family will listen. So continue trying and continue writing, because we all need to know and get in touch with the way we feel, because sometimes trauma creeps into our lives when we least expect it. And those things that trigger us are trauma related a lot of times. So you can become more trauma resilient by many, many, many things, and to be aware of what they are and what is triggering you is first and foremost, because that's where it starts. And that awareness on what was causing that feeling of trauma inside you that needs to be healed, because all of us have it, and all of us need that healing. And it doesn't have to come from the outside, it can come from the inside as well. You can really do a lot of good with trauma by just really delving deeply into your the very things that upset you, and the feelings that you're feeling. And sometimes we lose touch with what we're even feeling. I don't even know. But the way we become aware of how we're feeling is to recognize it in the moment and not just be on autopilot. You want to really be aware of where you are right now. Look at your surroundings. Feel what's around you. The chair, the clothes, the feelings, the textiles, the surroundings, how it sounds, how it smells. Those will bring you back to the moment. And that way you can become aware of what you're feeling. And even if you don't know why you're feeling something, and it's easier to kind of gloss over when you're feeling really good. But note that too. I'm feeling, and acknowledge it, because it will grow. Because when we only focus on the things that are not going well, and that's the only time we realize how we're feeling, we do ourselves a disservice, because it can kind of slant our minds into thinking that's the only thing we're feeling, because that's the only time we check in. Check in every day. In fact, there's an app that I really love that I use, and it is based on CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy is not quite like psychoanalysis. It actually teaches you that you can have tools to step back when you are thinking your self-talk. Everybody has that voice inside us that is always talking and always that monologue, so to speak.
Oh, shut up.
The way we talk to ourselves inside. And we need to realize that we're sometimes just the very words that we say to ourselves are negative. And we can change that, but by being aware of what that is, and listening and meditating and doing the things that make us aware of where we are in this moment, what we're thinking and how we're feeling, all affect the way we go into the future. So we want to engage with the moment, and really be when we're eating or when we're sleep. We're whatever we're doing. You want to fully engage. If you're eating, don't mix it up with watching television or driving. You want to really engage in whatever you're doing, to really live and really get the most out of every moment. Just do that. If you're writing, if you're reading, if you're washing dishes, it can be a mindful event. And there is a Zen saying I really love, and it's called, it says, opposite of American culture, by the way, and they were only valued for producing or doing something. when in the Zen saying of don't just do something, sit there. Because there's a lot of value in not only relaxing, not just mindless, but be in the moment and sit and listen to your breath. And that is the beginning of meditation. It's not hard. Those that meditate are less stressed, and those that meditate can deal with trauma in the past and things that happened to them a lot more effectively. Because and meditation is not hard. It's no wrong or right way. It's really about quieting the mind and being the watcher of your thoughts. Because truthfully, we are not our thoughts. Crazy enough, we're not our thoughts. We're not. Those are a manifestation of our mind and our. It's a condition. It can create emotions, and they're really not us. We are actually what's behind all those. Thoughts and emotions are barometers of the way we're feeling. They're not meant to live for very long. They're meant to last seconds, but we find people that live in their emotions for days, for hours, for years, and they just get stuck right there, holding a grudge against a family member, or just staying in that mood, that bad mood or negative space. But emotions are not really us, and our thoughts are uh, really, really, they're part of a function of our mind, but we're really, thoughts are like the ripples on an ocean, and we are the ocean. We're so much more vast, and we're so much deeper, and we can be calm, or we can be tossed about and really frenzied like an ocean can be. But we, deep down, are the calm behind those waves. The thoughts that we have, they're just thoughts. They can come and go. In the Tibetan culture, in the first stages of enlightenment, they call it the monkey mind, because it's the thoughts are flitting here and there, and they're erratic and they're uncontrolled. And the best thing we can do is to calm that stress, and to calm stress is to be aware of what you're thinking. And the best way is to just sit there. Just sit there and breathe. For in the morning is the best time. And right before bed, because the world is calm, and before you get up, before you reach for your cell phone or your tablet, um, before you really do anything, take 5 or 10 minutes and sit and just listen to your thoughts and let them go as they pop up. The goal is not to have an empty mind at all. And perfection of meditation isn't when you have an empty mind, it's when you are watching your thoughts and you're letting them go, and you're calming your mind, and you're easing that monkey mind, and you're just listening to your breath. Many people use a sound, and a lot of the vowels are ancient Sanskrit sounds. Ah, oh, When you say you hear that vibration in the back of your throat. A lot of people use that as a mantra, a focal point, to just repeat that so that you can bring yourself back to the moment, because your thoughts are going to wander, but you can bring them back with a sound, and that sound can bring you back to the moment. That's why a lot of people use the Tibetan bowl, because it has a gong. Atriel, get my Tibetan bowl. I'll show
It's
you
in the
what
room, right?
in the on the back of the on the fountain. So in facials, to calm a really high strung person, or one that's stressed and they need to calm down,
Right?
I take the Tibetan bowl and I bring them back to the moment. Hold on for a second, I'll show you. The Tibetan bowl is made out of, and in Tibet, the Tibetan monks would do a lot of meditating, and they still do. And it's a very, this tool, along with other gongs and tools of meditation, are used because they help you bring you back to the moment. So you have a mind that is naturally going to wander, but you can be the calm by coming back to the moment. And sometimes a tool uh, like this helps, because that's what you're going to focus on instead of that uh, thought that's causing stress, or that repetitive thought. They use things like this to bring you back to the moment. But so I'll begin sometimes a facial that to really focus on the calm and bring a stressed person back to the moment. So I'm going to show you this Tibetan bowl is made of 10 different metals and a specific, uh, I can't say that I can recall every single one of them, but gold and silver and copper are in there. But it is made to vibrate. And you begin the vibration like this. And it has different sounds, but the Tibetan bowl actually sings. You turn this slowly, keeping contact with the bowl, and the leather mallet creates a really pretty sound, and I can feel it vibrating in my hand. And I will place this on the diaphragm of people getting a facial, and they can feel it. They can feel it in their bodies, and you can really feel it. So it's really important tool to bring you back to the moment. If you need to step away, you can go ahead. I'll make sure you know. So this is a great tool. It's a great tool to really use in your own practice of meditation as well. So it's really, it's not the only tool I have. I have a pan drum at home, and but I really love the Tibetan bowl because it's a wonderful tool to bring you back to the moment when you're meditating and your mind wanders. Typically, this isn't the only one I use, but there's another tool, and this is the tuning fork. And tuning forks are set to different frequencies, different sound frequencies, and this is set to 528 hertz. And sound frequencies have different megahertz, and hertz are different levels of sound. And this one is at 528, and it sounds, and it's proposed to be a very healing frequency for the body. And it's a very interesting one in that also can bring you back to the moment, but it's also healing. And there are many different frequencies that I don't have the full set of tuning forks, but they have different frequencies that different and help different parts of the body. So I don't think that it is hocus pocus or magic or anything. We all, and everything on the earth and in the earth vibrates at different frequencies. So it's really important that we use tools that we have and learn about different ways that we can heal our bodies and our minds. And I think that I'm always going to learn different ways and add those, and anything that's going to bring you back into the moment and help you. Can it be helpful in meditation? So it doesn't take tools. However, you can do this with just silence and listening to your breath. So meditation is, many people use mindfulness while they're walking and call it walking meditation, because they're really focusing on their surroundings. And well, we don't have to be sitting still with your fingers together. It's really, there's no wrong way, but the minds of people that the brains of people, rather, the minds are a little more esoteric. The brains can be studied. Show different parts of the brain that are more active and less active when you meditate. And it's a very, very well documented that when you meditate, the more you meditate, the calmer you are when you do have stress. So you can have chronic stress, like kind of a low hum throughout your whole life. And you're not quite sure what does that. And that is, sometimes work, or if you are constantly on high alert. So we really need ways that we can calm our nervous system. And meditation is one. Exercise and focusing on releasing kinetic energy in our muscles. We're not meant to sit as much as we do. It causes us stress, and we're meant to work out and really work out that physical stress, because it's stored in our bodies. And I really feel that we all need to focus more on exercising more, because you can work out a lot of mental stress through exercising and really walking. It doesn't have to be extreme exercise, but we really do alleviate stress by walking and exercising a lot as well. So stress and trauma are quite closely related, and I feel that the stress that we're all under can be lessened, and it's worth the time and the habit of creating new habits in small ways. Incremental ways can lead the way. You don't necessarily want to say, I'm going to meditate every day the rest of my life. You want to say, I'm going to try meditation 4 or 5 minutes. Much easier. The small ways lead to big changes. So I think that if there's any more questions, we're going to have to
Wrap it up.
For the evening, and it's kind of late, and Atriel's
I do,
going to run.
but I will let you. I have to go answer the phone. I will let Susan flap.
We really, really I really enjoy being a part of this podcast, and really having that moment to discuss things, even though it's we got to wrap things up soon. I'd love to have some questions, and we'll answer them. And if you'd like to give us some ideas on what you'd like us to talk about next, I'd love to hear them and chat with you again soon. But thank you again for joining us, and all the many people that left questions or comments. Please subscribe and let us know in the comments below what you'd like to chat about in the future. And I'd be honored to be included again. Thank you so much. I'm going to be taking a look at all of the comments, and I would really, really love to hear your views on whether you enjoy or what you'd like us to chat about in the future. And we'll be reading them all and listening to those that don't feel listened to. Most assuredly, you are appreciated and listened to here. And thank you so much. We will I'm not quite sure when I'll be invited again, but let me know what your thoughts are on this, and we'll chat with you soon. And you have a wonderful evening. Take care and stay relaxed. Try a little meditation.